So it's a very warm welcome to Humanity to David and Alicia this morning. Hello, both of you. How are you?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Nice to hear your voice.
You have
nice
two
to see
today.
I love that. I love the fact that we've got a couple on the show today, and Alicia and David. Whereabouts in the world are you talking to us all from?
Well, we live in North Carolina now, but we both weren't born in North Carolina.
I was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, when all the chaos with segregation, racial segregation started. And my parents are Venezuelan, so I don't know why they decided to go there and study English there, but they had a great experience. Although it was shocking to see all the differences in terms of having separation of color when you were going to the movie theaters and restaurants. And after that, they decided to move to Baton Rouge and Louisiana State University. My dad wanted to pursue a career there, and we moved over there. And after that, he finished his career. He decided to move to Texas.
Oh.
And my brother was born there. Yeah.
Wow, what a story that is. Venezuela to Baton Rouge. Wow, that's quite a
He was getting his degrees, right? He was getting his undergrad in LSU, and then he got his master's in veterinary science at University of Texas.
Yes, and after he finished, then he says, I'm done going back to Venezuela. So I was 5 when we moved to Venezuela, but I always wanted to come back to the States, but I was being told, you're too little, you need to study first.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to study first. And I got my degree in law, and I started working for a few months, and I didn't like the setup over there with the corruption in Venezuela. So I'm like, okay, I have my degree, and I moved to Miami in 1990.
And there's no corruption in Miami, of course, right?
Oh, no, well, different level of corruption, but I didn't continue with the law. So I changed completely. When I moved, I didn't have any expectations. So I was watching one of your videos about making life changes. And when I decided to make that life change, I didn't have any expectation. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to move out of the country and start a new life.
Yeah, right.
And that's how
I just want to save my life if I can, Alicia, because I want to say hello to all my friends in Miami, and I love the place, and I will come back soon, I promise you all. Yeah. So just before everybody thinks I think that Miami is a corrupt place, the capital of the world, but it's not that. Now, David, your accent, you come from an island like I do, but not the same one. So tell us where you're originally from.
Yeah, another island in the Commonwealth. I grew up, I was born in London. I was adopted at birth by an American father from New York and an English mother from London, and raised in Leeds until similar age, I believe, just before I was 15, that I moved to the States. And I think, did you move when you were around 15 years old?
I did, yeah. You've done your homework. That's very good, yeah.
So it was a big transition going from Yorkshire, Leeds, to South Florida, near Miami, actually, Fort Lauderdale, and I loved it. And I got an athletic scholarship for running to university and stayed in Florida. And I was champion in the mid-'80s in cross-country in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
And went into a sales management career. Worked back in England in the mid-'90s, in London, then Scotland, and then came back with my first wife to Florida, and then moved to North Carolina in 2006.
So are you both in Raleigh, is it, in North Carolina? Is that where you are?
We're in Durham.
Pretty close, yeah.
Durham, yeah, okay.
Away, yeah.
Okay. I know that part of the world a little bit. It's a beautiful part of the world. There's lots of amazing places near to where you are, isn't there?
And green areas. We love the vegetation. So especially during COVID times that people are like locked at their houses, we are lucky that we are able to go into a trail that is full of green trees and pure oxygen, so fantastic
Yeah,
environment.
it's amazing. I went this morning and I ran. I was on a 25-mile trail, and I did my 5 times a half-mile repeat workout, and it's just you're connecting to nature. And if you believe in there's no separation. It's like string theory, So you're literally feeling everything around you. You're connecting to nature. You can hear the birds chirping, and you could feel your heartbeat. You could feel your breath. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like it. We're gonna have to talk about running. It sounds like you're a bit of an aficionado in that running side of things.
Oh yeah, and I trained and competed overseas, but I trained some athletes in New Zealand at the Sports Ambassadors Program. And when Nick Willis was 18 years old, he was competing against the US team that I was helping coach.
Okay, amazing. Okay, well, we'll wind the clock back because we're going to talk about a lot of other things. But I wanted to give you both a little bit of a test today because, let's see how well you know your area. I've done my homework on North Carolina, and I found out what the capital of North Carolina was in the year 1712. Do you know what it was?
I'm guessing it would be Charlotte.
Alicia, would you like to have a guess as well?
I will say Winston-Salem.
It was actually Bath, the little place of Bath.
Really?
Wow.
It was.
North Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. Bath in North Carolina. So there you go. There's some English heritage that's transpired over the Atlantic there. So, Bath was the capital of North Carolina for only a few years, actually, and then it transitioned into another city beginning with the letter E. I can't remember what it is, though, exactly. I'll have to test myself on that. Yeah, that's it.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
No, Elon, wasn't it?
Elon. Elon became the second capital of North Carolina. So there you go. You've learnt one thing from me today on the podcast. If you go away with nothing else whatsoever, you go away with understanding a little bit like that.
I will never forget.
Now, what I offer for many of my guests is the opportunity to dedicate their episode to someone special in their life. So who would you both like to dedicate your episode to today on the show?
I would say to my mom.
To your mum. Okay, that's beautiful. What's your mum's name, Alicia? Carmen. Okay. And David, what about you?
Oh, that's an easy one. Terry, my mum, and they both live with us. So.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, you can all sit down together and watch this later on and have a cup of tea and talk about the podcast show together.
For sure.
Fantastic.
We'd love to do that, yeah.
Now, everybody out here in podcast land watching or listening to this is dying to know, and I'm going to ask it probably as the first question we get into seriously today, is how did you two meet each other?
David, you start.
We met online, actually.
Ah, okay. So it does work.
It does work.
It does work.
Incredible.
We have been together since 2011.
Okay, brilliant. So tell us about that experience.
8 years of marriage.
Yeah, okay.
It's been incredible.
I don't want to plug them, but I do want to know whether you are their poster childs. Now, are you their kind of promo couple for being successfully married from meeting online?
For me, I will say, yeah.
I think it goes way beyond that. I think it's a site maybe when you're in middle age where to venture out and maybe do your homework on somebody, see if they have certain attributes online at least. The profile matches some of the similar interests. And I think it was easier having gone around the first time around. I was married for 20 years. Ali was married before. So it was perfect. It's two similar energies coming together in one field. It was amazing, yeah.
So were you a believer in the online dating thing before, or were you quite skeptical about it both?
I was very skeptical. Especially because you never know. You hear horror stories, and you don't know if the person that is putting a picture in the internet is the real person, or maybe it's like you said, like 20 years ago, and it's somebody else, right? Or older, or who knows what the criminal records are, things like that. But the same thing can happen if you go to a restaurant and meet somebody. You don't know anything either. And I'm in the introvert side, so for me, when my friend recommended Match.com, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I'll think about it. And then she said, try it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to contact anybody. I'm going to see who contacts me, and then I can do the screen and Google and see what I can find about that person, and I'm going to put my requirements.
Right.
So I said, I don't want anybody that smokes. I don't want anybody that is in drugs or married or whatever the case might be. And they might lie, but I try my best to do a pre-screening.
So it's funny.
And I work in human resources, so I try to do my pre-screening the same way that you were interviewing candidates. So.
Oh, okay. So now I understand. So did you give David a Myers-Briggs test before you went out with him?
Pretty much. Strength test, everything, inside discovery, everything.
It's fascinating though, because you're right, in terms of this online thing, it can give you a lot of benefits, can't it, in terms of not wasting your time and going out and actually meeting someone and going through that screening process the best you can. I've heard a couple of horror stories, but I've also heard lots of positive things about the whole online dating scene. And I guess in terms of, I've actually had, and believe this or not, I've actually had 2 people on my show who connected in real life after they'd been on my show.
Oh, wow.
No way.
And
so you're now the matchmaker.
You're the matchmaker.
I don't want to say that, but I'm actually going to get them. I'm going to get them to come back, and we're going to do, because I'm not allowed to tell who it is at the moment, but I'm going to get them to come back and do an episode and do a bit of a Match.com on Humaneity here. So that'll be fun.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it.
So stay tuned. Now the next question is, okay, we understand how you met, but why did you end up where you are in Durham in North Carolina?
Well, for me, I lived in Miami for like 12 years. I have been you were in the company for 22 years. I have been with ADP for 22 years.
Yeah.
And after 12 years, I decided that I wanted a change. I was in Miami when Andrew, the hurricane, hit, and it was very devastating. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm ready for a change. Let me move a little bit up north. So the company allowed me to relocate to the Palm Beach office, which is about 2 hours from Miami.
Yeah.
And after being 3 years in Palm Beach, there were 2 hurricanes that hit pretty hard. So I'm like, you know what? Let me see if I can move a little bit north.
Yeah.
So I spoke to our VP of Client Services, and I said, hey, I'm sorry, but I think that I'm ready for a move. If you have any opportunity in another state up north, I will be more than happy to go. And she's like, okay, I'll keep it in mind. So 2 months after I spoke to her, she says, are you ready to move? And I'm like, yes, but where? She says, North Carolina. I have never been here.
Right.
So I said, okay, I'll go. Yeah. And I have been here since 2004.
Okay. And were you already there, David, were you?
No, I was actually living with my ex-wife in South Florida, about 5 miles north of Palm Beach, in a place called Tequesta next to Jupiter, Florida.
Okay, yeah.
And we got hit, I think it was two times in 4 years in the eye of the hurricane. And I lost my pool enclosure, my gutters, half of the roof tiles, and I had the same decision to make. Do I stay in South Florida, or being a sales manager, I could live at that time with the company I was with east of the Mississippi, anywhere. So I said North Carolina, and I bought a house in Chapel Hill with my ex-wife, and I've been here since 2006.
But we were living very close to each other in Palm Beach, but we never met there.
Yeah, we have a similar story. We have a similar story in many different levels.
And we got divorced around the same time as well.
Yeah, okay.
Without knowing each other.
So we're talking about a lot of serendipity going on here, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah, no coincidences.
Everything happens for a reason in life. So are you above the hurricane belt now, or not, in North Carolina?
Not necessarily. It does come into North Carolina sometimes, the hurricanes, but they tend to draw into places like Wilmington, Cape Fear, around.
We're about 2 hours and a half from the beach.
We're inland.
Yeah, right, okay. So Charlotte's got quite a big harbour and etc. there. A lot of people take their boats into there, don't they? So that's a place that's been hit a few times. I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah. Charlotte's in the middle of the state. So.
But they do get.
Oh, sorry. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Charleston, am I? What's the one?
You're thinking of South Carolina.
You're thinking of Charleston, South Carolina.
I'm thinking of Charleston. Sorry, not Charlotte. Charleston. Yeah, I've had some friends that have been had boat damage with their boat in Charleston, and that's not very good at all. So tell us about travelling, because you've come from different parts of the world. You've ended up in a let's say the third party place in the world, which is in North Carolina. You've done a lot of travelling together, and I assume that you've done a lot of travelling before you met each other as well. So
yes.
a ton.
Can you remember your first ever overseas trip? David, start with you. Can you remember back to your first overseas travel experience?
Well, I started traveling, I think, probably when I was maybe 6 months old or maybe a year old.
Okay.
But the first memory I have, one of my fondest memories was when I was 4. I learned to swim in Malta. On the island of Malta. But when I was less than a year, my parents took me to France, Switzerland, Italy, Switzerland. When I was 5, they stuck me on a plane, sent me for the summer to America, where my grandparents were, by myself. So
Wow.
I visited America by myself when I was 5. My grandparents picked me up at the airport.
Wow.
And seeing the Statue of Liberty and the World Trade Center, and it was amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, at 5. So you were one of these young kids that you see on a plane that's taken care of by the air stewardess and all the rest of it.
I was sitting on the back seat, the last seat in the plane, taken care of by the stewardesses, yeah.
Did you get lots of chocolates on that flight? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. I do remember, actually, constantly bringing little sweets all the time, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I was 5 again, travelling around the world. Would be very, very good. Alicia, what about you? What was your first rememberable travel experience?
Well, besides going to Venezuela.
Yeah, besides going to Venezuela. Or even going to Venezuela, because that would have been your first time there, wouldn't it, when you were that young?
That was my first time, but I don't have many memories from that time. I just remember like having a hard time with English and Spanish at the time. But then I think that I was 8 or 9, and the first trip was going to Disney World.
Right. Okay. And how was that? That must have been amazing, like going to Disney World, right?
Amazing, yeah. At that time, you were like, everything is like fantasy. Disney World is like amazing experience. And then my big trip after that was when I turned 15. That I have family in Denmark, and I spent the summer about 2 months and a half in Denmark, and that was amazing. We went to Germany. We went from Copenhagen to different places, Kolding, another island in Denmark. So we had a fantastic time, and I gained a few pounds eating a lot of French and chocolate.
Northern European food will do that to you. Yeah.
It will, won't it? Isn't it a great part of the world, though, like anywhere in Europe, where you're so close to so many different cultures, and, you know, within a couple of hours you can be in another world, can't you? I just love that part of Europe.
Me too.
Yeah.
And we do that. We do that every summer. We fly to England every summer, and then we do separate, you know,
we try
pairing off, you know, to different countries.
To a different place that we haven't been.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I want to compliment you both on the bio that you sent me, because out of the over 200 guests that I've had on the show so far, I enjoyed reading your bio the most of anybody.
Thank you.
And do you know why? Do you know why that was?
Because it wasn't specific.
It was the reason was it was very minimalistic, and instead of someone writing pages and pages about themselves, it gave me the inspiration to find out a lot more about you both, because there wasn't a lot there for me to go on, right?
Well, I know that when I was going through LinkedIn, I noticed that you checked my LinkedIn. So I was checking yours, and I was reading your information as well, and your TED Talks, which was very inspirational, because what you're doing and what you have been doing in terms of not-for-profit. And I'm glad that you didn't change the name of Humaneity, because I think that, like you said, is the perfect time for that brand.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for that. That's really nice. And I was also giving you a compliment about the bio situation, because I think the most interesting people are the ones that don't say so much about themselves, and they want to be explored. So thank you for that. Now, a lot about travelling, and in terms of the travel that you've done over the years, I like to read that you've become more conscious when it comes to travel and life in general, because if you become a conscious being, then you're also adapting that way of a lifestyle. When did that start to happen for you, or has it been something that's been part of your DNA for your whole life?
David more so than me, and because he works in the natural industry, I have learned a lot from him, and I have changed things that I didn't know that they were not as healthy as I thought they were. So when we travel, David is pretty much the one that does all the research, especially with restaurants and hotels, especially when we have control. If we have no control, well, we have to manage with what we have. But for the most part, we try to stay in hotels that are like with organic mattress, or they have organic food, or sustainable. And the same thing when we go to restaurants, we try to support local business everywhere we go.
Yeah, fantastic.
Independent, local, farm to table, conscious people that are conscious of how the animals are treated, or if it's sometimes vegetarian, if they can do organic or at least local,
David, I'm assuming because you've been an athlete all your life that you've had this well-being and healthy lifestyle kind of philosophy for your entire life. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. It changed for me when I moved to the States in a big way. My dad, growing up, was involved in catering and hotel management, and so we didn't necessarily eat organic back then. But when I moved to the States, right before I was 15 years old, the first day of school, the cross-country coach grabbed my soft drink. I had like a fruit drink, and he grabbed it out of my hand and he threw it into the rubbish bin. And I said, I'm not going to run for this man. He just insulted me. And my father grabbed me by the shoulder and said, listen for his reasoning first, why he did that.
Yeah.
And he changed my life. He changed my diet. He changed my perspective on self-belief, self-confidence, also about sportsmanship, which I think I've been a good sport all my life. But he gave me a different perspective, and literally that first season, he changed my times. He knocked the first meet of the season, I'll never forget this as a 15-year-old, 18 minutes and 4 seconds for 3 miles. At the end of the season, I was running 15 minutes and 34 seconds.
Wow.
As a 15-year-old. And I said, if he says jump from a roof, I'm jumping from a roof. So he changed my perspective, and he gave me dedication. He started thinking it was about there's no I in team. And think about how do you better the team? How do you contribute to the whole? And it changed my perspective on things. So from then on, it changed me.
I love that story, because it's another one of those stories where we hear that people that come into your life for all sorts of reasons bring a message, don't they? They bring a signal, and in that case, he became obviously a mentor and somebody that took you in a new direction that, helped you to become the man that you are today, David, right?
I agree with you, Mark. Second father, really. I had two coaches that were like second fathers to me. Yeah.
I had a very similar experience in my tennis career. I had a gentleman who was in his early 80s that was paired up with me as my coach in my early days, and he used to actually live and sleep in a caravan next to the tennis courts where I used to train.
No kidding. Wow.
And on the first day that I met him, he came out of his caravan in his dressing gown with a whiskey bottle in his hand, shouting and screaming, and I thought, hang on a minute, there's no way that this guy is going to coach me. But very much like your story, he turned out to be one of the biggest mentors in my life, and an incredible human being who I still talk about to this very day, right? And it's extraordinary. Alicia, have you got somebody like that in your life that has been a mentor in that capacity?
My husband.
Okay, fantastic. Well, isn't that special though? Because you can, having to share that as a couple is really special, isn't it? When it's that close to home, so to speak, and you have that connection together.
It's incredible. I think when you can already know what the other person's thinking, and the next exact word, literally when I say exact word, they're going to say next every single time, not 4 times out of 5. It's
Yeah.
Special connection. Yeah, it's amazing.
I have that with my little puppy dog.
Oscar.
I have that with Oscar. Yeah.
Oscar. Yeah, Oscar.
I
Mark,
know
are you not playing tennis anymore?
No, that's something that has gone away a long time ago in my life. I've had I don't want to say careers, but I've had activities in other sports that I took up after tennis. Triathlon being one of those, which I got very serious about for quite a while. And then I found the world of marathon running. So I've run a lot of marathons around the world.
Oh, wow.
And I've walked a couple as well, I must say. So ended up walking them, but I started off running. But yeah, I found a lot of peace and serenity in running. And David, I'm sure you can attest to this. And I think it's been something that's helped me enormously throughout my life journey. I've only started meditating in the last couple of years, and prior to that, I used to call my running sessions as my meditation session, because I was able to go into a place in my mind during those runs, particularly the long runs, where I was literally zoned out and in a place of peace and serenity, I would call it. And it was amazing, because doing, long 20-mile runs and that in the weekend, one would think there's a lot of pain associated with that, and I didn't have any of that. It was just pleasure. And so running has been always a big part of my life as well.
That's amazing. When I first saw that, I thought, okay, we'll probably at least have a minute or so talking about the experience of running. Yeah, amazing.
Well, as you can attest to, David, I think in terms of, I've run a lot of marathons around the world, so it's been combined with my passion for travel and to see other cultures. And when you actually go to a country and you're there for a purpose like running a marathon, you tend to see the better side of the country. You're around positive people. You eat well, you go to places that, like you're talking about, where it's organic and you're looking for good food, you're looking for good interactions. And I used to really enjoy that, because it was a different way of seeing the world. And I would say that it was a conscious way of seeing the world, because I was going with a goal and a purpose, was to finish this marathon. But at the same time, there's no better way to see a city than running around it, right? Like get your shoes on and go for a run around the city. It's you'll see things that you'll never see on a tourist bus or on the underground or anything like that. So I highly recommend it. Have you done much of that in terms of not necessarily running around places, but walking around cities?
That we do a lot.
Oh, we do. Gosh, so we were doing like 15 or 16 mile days sometimes.
Especially
just walking. Yeah.
In the south of France, we have been like not last year, the year before. We flew from London to Marseille.
Yeah, we flew just outside London to Marseille. Yeah.
And then we drove to Avignon, and we use Avignon as our base. But then we will go in the car and go around different cities. And I was chasing also lavender fields.
Oh, of course. Well, that's the part of France for the lavender fields. Yeah, beautiful.
So we were going to towns that you can barely see like any tourist. It was mainly few locals, and we were just having like lunches in the supermarket, like just getting a baguette and some cheese, and we were just go to the next town.
And we found some bio co-ops, so organic co-ops along the way in a small off-the-road, weird place like a shack, but it said bio co-op. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I wanted to talk more about that, and Alicia had said before, David, that you do a lot of the planning of your trips and your travel that you do. So when you're looking for these places that are organic and eco-friendly and all the rest of it, what process do you use? Are there websites that you can go to find out this information?
Yeah, I just punch in eco-friendly hotels. So we found one, for instance, when we were in Austria.
In Austria, yeah.
We stayed in the Eco Suites Hotel
in Salzburg.
In Salzburg. And they had organic mattresses. They had everything was. They told you they were conserving on water, conserving on detergent, recycling in terms of energy, and then of course sustainable materials within inside, and then serving local produce, local eggs, more organics. And then in London last year we stayed in the Cubic Hotels, which is a chain, but they have organic mattresses with coconut shells in the base, so there's no coils, there's no electromagnetic disturbance.
Right.
and you've got natural materials, and they show you when you're there 60% less usage of water, 65% energy savings, and they break it down on the walls when you first walk in, and it shows you how eco-friendly they are.
So how are these hotels assessed? Is there a governing body that goes around to make sure they're doing the things that they're saying they're doing?
Well, for instance, Cubic, they're B Corp certified. So the fact that they're B Corp certified fits in with, for the Humaneity viewers, it fits in with that ethos.
Yeah, right. When
to go through the process of being B Corp certified, you are doing the right thing. And of course they are in hotels, I believe. They do have inspectors, of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you talked about, looking for local produce coming from local farmers and that. So when you're in a destination, do you go out hunting for those local suppliers and local farmers?
Yeah, I do the research when we're going out to a restaurant. Sometimes ahead of time, I'll call and say, okay, where do you get, if we're going to do beef, where do you get your beef? Is it grass-fed? Where's it coming from? We don't want to do GMOs. We don't want to do grain-fed beef. Mostly if we stick to vegetables, but when we do eat meat, we want to find out, we don't want any factory farming involved in any of the food that we eat because we don't want cruelty. Okay, so the people out there, you are what you eat, and you're eating what the animal is eating as well. Yeah. And some people forget that. Yeah.
So are you able to confidently say that the information that you receive from these people when they say, yes, my cattle is 100% grass-fed, you believe that?
No, then I'll go back and check, and I'll find what farm, and then I'll do my own research.
It goes a farm sometimes, and sometimes I said, you know what, just detach, just think in your mind that it's grass-fed. That way you enjoy yourself. And sometimes we cannot control what we cannot control. So
you do the best you can. Yeah. You make the best choices. If you're informed, you make an informed choice at least. Yeah. And hopefully that's the right one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a smartass on this because I'm really into this myself, and more so recently because I've just gone through a big health purge myself, and lost a lot of weight, got my whole nutrition plan onto a new strategy. And I've been wondering a lot of the time, even when I'm told, okay, it's grass-fed, well, are you spraying the grass with anything? Like, is there anything going on to the grass that I shouldn't be eating?
That is a great thing you just brought up, Mark. I think for the viewers is glyphosate, the Bayer Monsanto machine that they're spraying, not just grass, but they're spraying about over 160 different foods. So most people think a plant-based diet is the way to go. But if you do conventional, the glyphosate sprayed on most of your plant-based proteins, chickpeas, conventional, beets, sweet potatoes, black beans, lentils, most of the grains, of course. And most people think, well, wait a second, plant-based is healthy. But not if it's sprayed with glyphosate.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's something that I've been really thinking about in terms of how do we get to that truly organic state. And someone said to me the other day, "Oh, you must be okay. You live on a sailboat and you can catch fish and eat really clean and healthy." And I said, "Hang on a minute. Do you know what those fish have been eating? They've been eating plastics. Right. They've been eating sewage. They've been eating all sorts of stuff, right? So." Even there, we're not safe, right? We just don't know what the life cycle has been of that actual thing that we're putting in our mouth, no matter what it is. Alicia, were you this focused on conscious living before you met David?
Not as much, but I was not into fast food restaurants. Growing up in Venezuela, we pretty much grew up with organic because it was a lot cleaner over there in terms of the environment at that time. But I have never been someone that drinks sodas or juice or a lot of sugar. I tried to be as conscious, but I didn't know a lot of what David's explaining right now. So now I'm combining both. Okay.
So are you completely processed sugar, a processed food out of your diet at the moment, David? Is it kind of...
when we want something...
No, I think when we're at home, we eat 100% organic when we're home. When we go out to eat at a restaurant, even if you make an informed, conscious choice, a restaurant's going to still use You don't know what oils they're using to cook with. You don't know what type of sugar. Maybe they're not using unbleached, unprocessed cane sugar. Maybe they're using, processed sugar. So you do the best you can, but at home we do well.
Yeah, and the same with wine. David does a lot of research in wine, so we try also as much as we can to have organic wines.
Organic and biodynamically grown wines.
I think the best way to do research on wine is just drink a lot of it, isn't it?
And we're doing good. We're doing good. We're keeping up with the research. We're keeping up with the research very well, actually.
So when you go out for a meal and you obviously have ingredients that you're not having at home because of the way that restaurants prepare food, can you feel the difference in your body?
Bloated?
Yeah, we can, but we do modify sometimes. So if we go to one of our favorite restaurants that we go to locally here, a place called Juju, we'll say to them, okay, do sauce on the side, or can you do it without this here, and then we can add back in and control.
We can control the portions. Like sometimes if we ask for some vegetable plate and we know that it comes with soy sauce, we said, can you put the soy sauce on the side instead of mixing all the vegetables with that? And sometimes we say without salt, because sometimes it's very salty. Yeah,
okay, cool. So conscious traveling, is there more and more people? Do you actually run into people who are conscious travelers as well? Obviously, people staying in eco-friendly hotels are conscious travelers, or most of them would be, I would say. But is it a conversation you have on the road with other people that you meet?
We have met plenty of people, actually. Even when we were in Aix-en-Provence, in the south of France, when we were there, we stopped in the morning at an organic place that had organic breakfast, coffees. And so you talk to other couples or you talk to singles that are there. Where are you traveling? And then find out, hey, have you found any other places locally that are organic? And they'll tell, oh, yeah, 2 miles down the street. Organic place, great for lunch. They're doing this. And we're seeing more and more of that. Even in Austin, Texas, where we were earlier in the year, we got turned on to a local place that was going down twice a month to Mexico, getting organic heirloom corn, red, purple, black corn, all different colors, bringing it and doing the nixtamalization of the corn literally there in their own little restaurant in Austin. And we met a guy there, and he was telling us, hey, you need to go here, you need to go there. Have you been here traveling?
And they become followers of our account, too, because they want to see where we're going as well. David has a food travel account. He doesn't do a lot of engagement like I do. I'm more constantly in my that travel account. But David posts all the food or restaurants in his page. So then he gets the followers for the people that are interested in the food options.
Two Picky Travelers. I'm going to put the links in the show notes today so everybody can connect with you. But tell us, where did Two Picky Travelers, the name, come from?
David's pickier than me.
We're two travelers. I'm slightly not slightly, but I'm the pickier of the two. But let's say we're discriminating travelers.
But picky,
but not in a negative way, not in the wrong discrimination.
Picky when it comes to like choosing organic and places that are supporting eco-friendly places, things like that.
Look, I'm really big in this, and as I've talked to so many people across the world about their consciousness when it comes to travel, I'm getting more and more excited about how people are getting more and more deeper into it. The travel industry is going through a revolution, of course, not just because of COVID-19, but because of people's conscious awareness to living a healthier lifestyle. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, this eco-friendly industry that's evolving within the travel industry. Have you got a favorite eco-friendly destination that you've been to so far that you're going to put out there on the show today and say to everybody, you must go to this place?
That's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. I think in terms of level of eco-friendly as a country, I thought Austria was fantastic. I think there was more bio-organics there than most countries as a whole. We love the south of France. When I was in New Zealand in 2001 I was in New Zealand and Australia coaching as part of the Sports Ambassadors program, and New Zealand and Australia and maybe to a lesser degree, are phenomenal in terms of abundance of eco choices.
Yeah, I can't say enough about New Zealand, of course, because I think it's the diamond in the rough as far as the world of tourism goes, and our little country needs lots of tourists to come down there as soon as the borders open again to support our economy, like a lot of places do. So prior to COVID-19 coming down and hitting the world the way that it has, where were some of your latest travel destinations that you had been to?
Before COVID, Austin was the last place that we visited because I had a work conference over there. So David always goes with me at the end of my conference. So we stay for a few days just to explore whatever city we go. And we really had a great time there. The people were super friendly. We met a lot of people. Well, David always talk to everybody. It's not a problem, but for me it is. But I didn't have any issues with that. People were very smiling all the time, so I felt comfortable and engaging with the people there. So we had a great time. Mm-hmm.
So anywhere else in Austria that you can recommend, David, other than Salzburg?
We went to
the Lakes region. The Lakes region is wonderful, and then slightly outside Austria, which was just just inside Germany, was Eagle's Nest, which we thought the historical story behind that, the historical, thing with Hitler spending,
it was his his
hideaway, although he didn't spend much time there.
He was afraid of heights.
Right.
Incredible view from there. Yeah.
Are you people that like to go on trains? Have you been on many train trips?
I have when I was younger, a lot in Europe, a lot. Just like when I was younger, I went on a lot of cruises. I went on 9 or 10 cruises.
Same for me. But train, the last time that we really went into a long, 2 hours was from London to Paris.
Yeah, on the Eurostar.
On the Eurostar.
Together has mainly been on the Eurostar, and then going up north to Scotland, obviously up north to Yorkshire.
From Newcastle to...
And then to Edinburgh,
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the reason I raise that is next time you're in Europe, you might want to do the trip that goes from Zurich to Vienna. And I did that one time not so long ago, and it is one of the most incredible train journeys you could ever do in your life because it goes through some amazing scenery.
Oh, I bet. We haven't been. Well, I haven't been.
Some of the mountains and lakes there are incredible. We did a lot of hiking when we were there, so we climbed 2 of the higher peaks when we were there.
Right, okay, good. Have you done much hiking around the US, like the Appalachian or anything like that?
Well, we've hiked in the Appalachians.
But not much, not too high.
Well,
and Boone and Grandfather Mountain.
Yeah, we've been up to Grandfather Mountain. We've done the Blue Ridge Parkway. We've done some of the Appalachians. We also went out to Charlottesville to visit the vineyards out there, which was really nice.
And many years ago, I went to Colorado, to the Rocky Mountains.
Okay. So since COVID-19's come along, how's that kind of dampened your travel plans? What have you been doing?
My sister lives in the Panhandle area. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that area in Florida, but it's one of the most beautiful beach places in Florida.
Yep.
It's my opinion.
Right.
But she lives there, and it's always a good opportunity to spend time with her. So we always try to go there as often as we can. There is no direct flight, and driving is about maybe 10 hours.
Wow.
So every time that I have a few days, I try to go there. But this time, because we couldn't go to Europe as we planned, so we spent about 3 weeks with them, and it was wonderful. We were going to the beach every day and enjoying the local organic places that David found.
Yeah.
And a lot of good quality time with them, and it was fantastic.
We even found a restaurant served New Zealand venison, which I had.
Oh,
it was so good. It was so good.
I was going to say you must have loved it. Did you have a bit of New Zealand ice cream afterwards, David?
No. I haven't had New Zealand ice cream since I was in New Zealand.
Yeah, you probably don't, though. That's the thing. After you've had New Zealand ice cream, you won't touch ice cream anywhere else in the world unless it's New Zealand ice cream, I reckon.
Oh, wow. So we have to go.
Grass-fed.
So has COVID-19 kind of made you look inwardly a little bit more domestically in the US for destinations now? Are there things that you thought, oh, we'll go and check this out because we can't go to Europe at the moment, or we don't want to go to Europe at the moment?
Yes,
definitely. Right.
And one of those places that I haven't been was Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And because we were driving down to Florida, we decided to stop in Savannah for one night.
Yeah.
Going there and then coming back, we decided to stop another night so we can explore the city, and it was a great experience as well.
So tell us about Savannah, because I actually haven't been to Savannah, but I've heard a lot of good things about Savannah. Why should people go there?
A lot of history there. Great restaurants, great energy all around the city, different activities. They have TV Island that we didn't have a chance to go. We went to a plantation as well, so we like to explore the cities and the history behind them. Of course, I shouldn't know about Bath in North Carolina, but now I know.
You know about Bath.
But yeah. We like history, and we like to explore cities and not go to shopping malls or things like that, but just seeing what that city is about.
I've always thought that the south of the United States is a kind of an untapped, known area for tourism. There's so many gems in the south, and it's not, for people that down in this part of the world where I'm from, when we travel to the United States, we tick off the big cities and we go to all the well-known places, but I love the people in the south. I think the southerners are some of the nicest people you'll meet anywhere in the world. Some of the scenery is the most spectacular. The contrasts are amazing. It's really part of the United States that I think more and more people should go and visit.
Yeah, and for me, that's a good point also in terms of the South. When I moved here to North Carolina, I was shockingly surprised of how nice people were. Like when I will go to a place, people will open the door and they will say hi and smile to me and connect eye to eye, and I was like, is that me or somebody else? But it got me to a while to get familiar with that, and it was surprisingly good and positive change for me, knowing that people were eager to say hi and good morning and engage in conversations with you. Yeah,
and we haven't even talked about Southern fried chicken.
We don't eat that.
And we probably might not.
So getting back to your travel plans, what do you do now? We're all stuck in this COVID bubble, and we don't know. No one really knows what's going to happen. Everybody's got their theories on what might happen, but we really don't know. So how far are you planning ahead when it comes to your next travel excursions?
I think we're going really on the fly. We're making these, okay, let's go away for a weekend or a 4-day break or a 5-day break. Obviously, we just had the 3 weeks down in Florida, but we'd like to venture out west, I think. Definitely places like maybe Wyoming, and also some of the states where you can see these amazing national parks, like in Utah, and amazing, like Bryce Canyon and places like that. Obviously, we'd love to go to Yellowstone as well, right? Yeah.
Have you been to Montana?
No.
I've been to Montana, but only on business, but never for pleasure, yeah.
Yeah, I've always said that's one of my favourite states in the US. It's an incredible place where the land meets the sky, basically. It's
big sky.
That's one of the reasons that we're like, we need to go there. Now that if we don't know when we can travel to Europe, so we have the perfect opportunity to explore more in the United States.
So
we cancelled our trips coming up to. We had planned originally, Mark, to go to Portugal,
right,
this summer. So we had to cancel everything, hotels and planes and everything. Yeah.
Right. So how was that experience in terms of the cancellation side? Did you get your money back, or did you get flying credits, or how did that work?
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah, we got the money back, no problem. I think the flexibility of the airlines now and also hotels, thank goodness, has changed, because initially I had a work conference, Natural Products Expo, earlier in the year, and that was literally before they put these lockdowns in place in Southern California. So I just managed to get for work, just got credits. But with our case, we got refunds. So very nice.
Okay. So COVID-19's, changing a lot about the world that we know of, and how's it affecting you in your particular town, city area that you're actually living in? Is there a big, cause to be concerned on a daily basis? Do you feel comfortable going out and about?
Yes, we are. And
we feel very comfortable.
I think that since the beginning, the state has done a good job managing, making sure we have the restrictions. A lot of the restaurants were closed at the beginning, but they have different stages, phase 1, phase 2, but everything was progressive, and everybody, for the most part, has been okay with those changes. The gyms opened about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks ago.
Yes. And a lot of outside dining options and curbside. So that's what we were doing for a while. If we wanted to get some food, we were getting the curbside, and we were fine. And I think that the state also has low cases at this time. And
yeah, compared to some of the high case states like Florida, New York, California, North Carolina, comparatively is very low.
Okay,
and we're very health conscious, and we feel good, and our immune systems, we don't take any prescriptions. We just do natural
vitamin C,
immune support.
Zinc, magnesium.
Many different things, and then I do some unconventional stuff as well. Yeah.
That's the important thing, isn't it? Is keeping that immune system strong, and as you're doing, and as you know, keeping all those natural things into your body. The travel industry is going to look supposedly different when we come out of this. What are your thoughts around how the travel world is going to look like next time you go to Europe? Are you concerned about getting on a plane with 300 other people and heading across the Atlantic?
No, I don't. I think there might be some hesitation. I think we'd probably lie if we said we weren't at all concerned. But taking care of our immune systems, exercising, being cautious, wearing a mask when you're there. And I think they'll probably space out. If they keep the middle seats like they are doing now open, I wouldn't be concerned. Not the way we take care of our immune systems. I wouldn't be concerned.
Are all airlines doing that? Because I've had a number of people contact me and saying I was on a flight the other day and it was jam-packed.
Jam-packed.
No.
Yeah.
Not all the airlines, but we're going to do the research first.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think right now we're ready to go on a plane that's not doing that spacing.
Okay, so that's going to be one of the requirements that you have as a couple when you travel, is you're going to be doing your research to see what airlines are actually offering this, spacing out, social distancing, I guess we call it, on the aircraft itself. Any other things that you've got on your list as far as things that you must have now that we're in a COVID-19 conscious world? Are you going to travel with, do you have your own masks that you'll be traveling with and stuff?
Yeah, we do. We buy the masks made in Germany. We've been buying those. We like those a lot. Am I a fan of wearing a mask all the time? No. But we stick to whatever the rules are. We stick to the rules, and we go with it.
What about your thoughts, Mark, in terms of flying again, and your restrictions or your requirements before you travel?
Oh, Alicia, I look at it very simply. I'll be on a plane the minute I'm allowed to, and I have the passport ready at the door. I have my bag packed, and I'll be gone.
Good.
Yeah, I think we can let a lot of fear come into our lives, can't we, on all sorts of things if we allow it to. And I think that at the end of the day, I acknowledge that there is a global pandemic and a lot of people have died. It's been very unfortunate, but I also feel very sad for everybody across the world that has lost someone from cancer this year or some other disease.
Or it's suicidal or depression.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that to try and undermine the importance of COVID and what's happening. I'm just saying that we need to keep everything in balance and perspective. And, we've got to help the world out. We've all got to help the world out and do our little bit. And travel and tourism is such an important part of the world's economy. We need to play a responsible part in getting it all back on its feet again, I believe, anyway.
I agree. And I know that the time is coming to an end in terms of the conversation, which has been fantastic. Thank you. But one thing that I wanted to share with you is like when we went to Florida, we felt free because nobody was wearing masks. Everybody was having a great time. We were being careful, of course, because you still like have it in your mind with like, that's why we don't watch the news anymore because it's like too much. So we were going to the beach. Everybody was like laughing, having a good time. People were at the bars. Nobody was thinking about any COVID. They were having a great time. And my sister shared with me that that county has one of the lowest cases. So I'm like, okay, so then you're like, what do you believe?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Alicia, I have some good news for you, Alicia.
Uh-huh.
I'll get into the book in a second. I just want to tell Alicia some good news, though, David.
Sorry about it.
Alicia, the good news is you just mentioned about we're running out of time. The fact is, the great news is that this is my show and we can go as long as we want to.
Great.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry, David, I didn't mean to cut you off with the book. What was the book about?
No, so many books I've been influenced by, but there's one called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton.
Oh, Bruce Lipton, yes, absolutely.
One of the early epigeneticists, and I think you're very correct in what you stated.
Yeah, well, it's all up here, right? It's all there.
Yes.
And getting rid of the. I'm a big fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton, so I can tell in terms of that whole subconscious shifting the paradigms. We can certainly step out of our old self, and I've had a lot of people, as you know, on this show, if you've listened to some of my shows, people that have done amazing life transformations and turned their lives around. I had a episode I just posted this morning, actually, here down in Australian time, of a gentleman who was a multi-millionaire successful businessman. He lost everything overnight and ended up living in his car, and he talks about how he rebirthed his life to get back to where he is today, and he's doing very successfully again, not just in a financial capacity, but he's now realized that looking after the spiritual side of his journey is just as important, if not more important, than looking after the economic side. So spirituality, obviously, David, with the book there sitting right next to you, it's something that you guys embrace a lot in your life. Tell us about that story. And I'm talking about the story of you when it comes to spirituality.
Yes, well, I think I've been spiritual, I'd say, most of my life, but the biggest shift was probably in my mid-30s, where I started to have a shift in my first marriage. And I started to read books, because once you start changing internally, you start thinking about what really matters in life. And one of the first books I ever got was The Power of Now. And then I'd read different books. I'd read simple allegories like Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, and then I went into Robin Sharma's the monk who
sold his Ferrari. Yep.
Sold his Ferrari.
Yep.
And the follow-up, and then I met this wonderful soulmate next to me, and on the first dinner date that we had, I went to pick her up. I handed her some flowers, and she gave me a book. And she said, I read this book in Spanish, and I bought you the English version, and it was The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra.
Okay, yeah.
And that was, even though that was some years into the shift, that was really where it almost like two fields merged into one. And it's like, wow, this is confirmation of the synchronicity code. It's confirmation of the God code. Literally, there's no separation. And so I'd say the biggest points of spirituality confirmation was meeting this amazing human being right next to me.
Now, a lot of people will be listening, and I want to be cognizant of this, because we should define what spirituality means to you, because everybody can interpret that in different senses, particularly across different languages as well. So do you want to just spend a minute and kind of, if you can, defining what spirituality means to you?
Spirituality to me is not necessarily defined by a religious belief, but it's more about being a good person, coming to understand that change is good. Any type of change is always good. And you've got to continually evolve. And putting others before yourself, but not ignoring yourself, because the more you have self-love, the more love you have to give the other person. The more you have self-belief, the more belief you can invest in another person. So I think a combination of spirituality and athletics have helped me evolve, and having a good family that shows me love, unconditional love, and have a wife that shows me unconditional love. It has never failed me. So spirituality helps me understand myself, always tells me that growth and change should never stop. It should always continue. And there's no separation between the piece of the blade of grass, the animal, then the person down the street, the person that's pushing the garbage and emptying the garbage trucks, then myself. So everything is connected, like the biosphere on a biodynamic farm. The moon is connected, the farmer's connected, the soil is connected, the animal's connected. So it's a very humbling journey, but it's constantly learning. I mean.
Alicia, what's your journey been with spirituality?
Mine is simple. Even though I was raised in a Catholic environment, I didn't have the greatest experience going to a Catholic school. For me, it's just believing in being a good person, treating others the way that you want to be treated, and respecting people's differences, and making a difference, like you say always in your show too. And that for me is the principle that I live by.
Yeah, beautiful. I think we've been blessed so many times with COVID-19 because if I can just give a couple of examples of what I've witnessed and listened to people talking about is a lot of people have been stuck at home. They've been looking for new literature to read, new podcasts to listen to. People are diving into the self-help. I was just reading yesterday that the sales of self-help books and podcasts has gone through the roof in the last 6 months around the world. People are investing time in themselves like perhaps they never have before. And more importantly, people are actually doing something to change their life. And I think that's a really big step, because you can read all the self-help books you want in the world, but if you don't take upon the action to actually do something with it, then you're going to get the same outcomes, aren't you? So I've been really thrilled and motivated to read so many people's stories that, hey, I've changed my life in the last 6 months, and it's a great thing for the planet. Have you got people that you're associated with that have gone through life change in the last 6 months?
Ooh. I think we've seen a lot of changes, really.
Right.
But what's the most substantial changes? That's a tough question, really. We've seen, I think, it impacts family units, but in our case, luckily, it's brought people closer together. I know our family, COVID has definitely brought the closeness, and that's what we've really liked as well. And we've got we've maybe narrowed our get-togethers. So maybe it's another 3 couples that we get together with, and it's brought us so close. These are our second families, these other people. And also reaching out to see how we can help other people. You know, I think this last year, especially donating to people, we don't want to get into too specifics, but we had somebody that is very close to us that cleans our house, and her brother was held hostage in Mexico.
Right.
And we reached out. We donated. We reached out to our close family, friends of the family, and our neighbors. And our neighbors came through, and they released him. And it did show that, you know, there are people out there that are big. They have big hearts. They're empathetic. They really put other people first, and it's not just about them.
Yeah.
It's in the hard times, it's the people that you can count on during the hard times in your life that are your true friends. And that's what I really love to see, is how do they respond when, you know, the cookie's starting to crumble.
Oh, I tell you what, that's a beautiful way to end the show today, because you've just left us all with a bit of inspiration and thinking about how we can all get out there today and make a difference to someone else's life and not just thinking about our own. So, David and Alicia, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Humanity. Alicia, you didn't show 1 second of nerves throughout the whole show, so you did a fantastic job.
Luisa did a fantastic job. She said, no worries, Mark is going to make you feel good in the show. You're not going to be nervous. Trust the process.
Well, I might have to give her a pay rise if she's going to be talking to people like that. So listen, thank you very much for joining me today. I'm really keen on getting you both back on the show at a later date after the two picky travellers have gone off and done something else that you can come back and tell all my listeners about around the world. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Mark. The same to you, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and listening about your experiences as well, and to see how we can be better humans.
Wonderful. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Bye.
Much appreciated. Thank you.